Get it started. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the financial aid Q&A. A lot of great information will be ahead for you guys. My name is Stephanie Wojciechowski. I'm Director of Admissions here at Niagara University, and welcome to all of you. So I'm here just to kind of give a little bit of an intro, and I'm going to turn it over to the important people. But I'm going to talk about a couple things just in terms of the admission process, some events coming up. If you have any questions, while I'm here, I still have access, the ability to look anything up, maybe in our system if you have specific questions about your student or anything. But we will go ahead and kind of go through some of the list of things coming up, especially for admission. So first of all, students that have been accepted and families, congratulations. If you have deposited already, even more so, congratulations. We're very happy you made the decision to attend Niagara. If you haven't made the deposit yet, please, make sure you do that as soon as you can. Reason being, especially if Niagara is where you want to be. We have our Purple Perks program, which I'm sure you've probably heard of either through your students and your children or, just through email and things like that. But the Purple Perks program is basically if you deposit by a certain date, you get items that will be given to the students once they actually arrive on campus when the semester begins in the fall. So if you have not deposited yet, but you are looking to do so by May 1, what you will get included with that is you'll get an NU t-shirt, Apple AirPods, and a hoodie. So those are the three things that you will receive if you deposit by May 1st. So just something to keep in mind as you're making your decision, as no one can believe how fast time's going. So May 1st will be here before you know it. Also, just to say, if you do need some time in making your decision, I'm sure you've been in touch with either your admissions advisor or even, myself or anyone from our office. If you need an extension, please just let us know. We're happy to honor that. We usually do it in 10-day increments. So if you're waiting on maybe something from financial aid or something else, don't hesitate to ask for that. We're happy to honor an extension for you. So don't hesitate to ask. I also want to mention that if you need a last minute visit or excuse to visit, we do have an open house coming up this Saturday at 10 o'clock. We do have a good amount of seniors that are attending. It is a mixed bag because obviously some rising seniors that are going to be next year will be attending, starting to look at their college process. So we have two separate sessions, one for seniors and one for the juniors. So it's focusing more on what you need at your point in the process of why you're looking at colleges. So if you're able to make that, please, register and sign up. We'd love to have you. But other than that, that's really all I wanted to say, besides the fact of just, reaching out to our office for anything that you might need during this time is what we're here for. But now I'd like to turn it over, like I said, to kind of the reason that we're here. So Katie and Jacob, you guys would like to introduce yourselves, and I'll leave the floor to them.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good evening, everybody. My name is Katie Kosis. I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at Niagara. I'm going to be going over Jacob and I have just a short presentation of kind of next steps and things to be thinking about as you kind of go through the process of, attending, starting to attend in the fall for your students. But of course, it also is a question and answer. So along the way, if anything we talk about, you have questions on, just put them in the chat. And if we don't talk about something you wanted us to bring up, put that in the chat too, and we'll get to those at the end. I'm going to let Jacob introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Jacob Copera. I'm the Director of Student Accounts. So our office handles all billing and payment questions. And Katie, I'll hand it back over to you so we can start our presentation and go from there.
All right. Thanks, Jacob. Okay, I am going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So financial aid Q&A. We already talked about who we are. Okay, a few other things to touch on before we get started. First off, this is geared towards students who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Any Canadians or international students should have already been contacted by their counselor to kind of let them know that this session really wasn't geared towards them, and we'll have something separate for them, down the road. So if you are a non-U.S. student, unfortunately, most of this might not really apply to you. And again, if you have more specific questions, we can, address those at another time. But for our U.S. Friends, hopefully you've already done your FAFSA form yet. I'm not really going to touch on that, except to say that if you haven't done it, please do so as soon as possible so that we can put together a financial aid offer for you, so you can see, what your estimated remaining balance would be, and any other options that would create. But hopefully you've already done your FAFSA and you have our financial aid package. It's been mailed and emailed to you. We're going to go over some other things kind of going off of that. First off is applying for our endowed scholarship opportunities. We have, it's called SOS, the Scholarship Opportunities Search. Any accepted student has the ability to log in and apply for these scholarships. Technically, we had a recommended deadline of April 15th, but we really won't start reviewing them for another few more weeks. So if you haven't done so already, please go into your MyNU just using your Purple Pass credentials. Hopefully you've already, created those and have those ready to go. Just use those to log in. And you can go just search endowed scholarships or scholarship opportunity search, and it should pop up. And again, there's like over, I don't know, 220 at this point, different scholarships that you can apply for. Next steps also is making sure that the students complete the FERPA form. This would be for any guardians or parents or guardians. They can do this in MyNU as well. And I believe it's actually in their a welcome portal, their admissions welcome portal after they are deposited. This will allow our offices, both mine, Jacob's records office, some academics, will be able to discuss their information when we are contacted. Because if you are not on there, there is some financial information we can provide if you're on the FAFSA. But if you're not on the FAFSA and you're not on the FERPA, there's very limited information we can share with you. Also, what they should be doing at this point, there were links sent in the financial aid offers in the email and also in the brochure, the packet that was sent, is to review their financial aid checklist in their self-service account. So again, using their Purple Pass credentials, you're going to use those for really everything at Niagara. We're going to log in into self-service. It'll say financial aid, and then when they click into it, they can see their checklist. And I think I have an example. So this is when they log into self-service. There's lots of different options that they will see. They will click on the financial aid section. And once they click into there, it will give them a checklist of things that they still need to do. In this instance, for example, you can kind of tell in the green they've already submitted their FAFSA. They've already done their required documents, but it'll kind of say where they are in the process. They can also go directly to view their award letter or their awards. So there's a couple different options they have on there. Again, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to do that as soon as possible. They can also go here to accept or reject their loans. So they've already been packaged and it's been sent out to them, and they did a FAFSA. We automatically offer them federal loans. They don't have to take them if they don't want to, but they do have to, make a decision on that. Now, you still have time if you are still debating whether or not you want to take the loans or not. Don't worry, you have time. We do recommend having that decision made prior to school starting, hopefully even well before that, hopefully sometime in early August, you've made that decision, whether you want to take the loans or not. But this is where you'll do it. You go to My Awards and detail in there, and it'll tell you, these ones are in the offered status. And this is an example of what that section will look like. The top section will just list the grants and scholarships. Those are already accepted for the most part. Any New York State grants you'll see is an estimated status, and that's just because we have to wait for official funding from New York State. And we don't have there's no budget yet officially for New York State, so no official numbers from them until that budget is passed. But right now everything is an estimate. So that will show up, but there's nothing that they have to do for those grants and scholarships. What students will have to look at and decide upon, as I said earlier, is the loan section. So it will show here in a orange beige color that they still have to make a decision. It will show as estimated or offered. And again, they have to decide whether they would like to take those loans. But they do have time, again, before they have to make that decision. Something else they should be doing that if they haven't done so already is to create their mobile financial aid account. This will be listed as a required document that's outstanding in their self-service area in the checklist if they haven't already done it. It's very simple. Again, using their Purple Pass credentials, anyone who completed a FAFSA will have to create their mobile financial aid account. It does allow for the secure upload of confidential information in case something else is requested, whether it's taxes, W-2s, legal guardianship paperwork, like whatever it may be. This is a way to securely do it. You can go there directly at niagara.studentforums.com. Or again, there's a link within the checklist, and you just have to use the Purple Pass ID. This is just an example of what that will look like. as soon as they click in this case, the student was selected for verification, and it'll just say, hey, congratulations, you've submitted it after it's done. Otherwise, it'll say it's still needed. Most times at this stage for incoming students, not very many are actually selected for the verification process, as they have been in past years. Right now, it's really just the most common outstanding document will just be actually creating the financial aid account. So once you get in there, it might not really show that you owe anything because you just had to create the account and that was it. All right, going back to the loan piece, if you do decide to accept the loans, if the students decide to take them, and again, these are loans they're from the federal government, based upon having completed the FAFSA form. We have to offer these. You don't have to take them, but they are going to be in the student's name. So the student will be responsible for paying these back after graduation or after they stop attending Niagara or another school. If they decide to take the loans, so one option is to reject them. You can do that, and then there's nothing else you have to do besides rejecting them. But if the student decides to take the loans, after they accept them online in the self-service portal, they also have to do the entrance counseling and the master promissory note. So these are two separate items. They're both electronic. You do them at the same website, but they are two separate things. Studentaid.gov, the same website where the student completed the FAFSA form, is where you will go to complete the loan requirements. The entrance counseling, it's more like a tutorial, kind of, letting them know what the rights and responsibilities are for having a loan, and, what you have to do for when you have it, paying it back, and all those types of things. More like a little quiz at the end. That'll take about 30 minutes to do. And the other one, the master promissory note, this takes a little, not as much time, maybe only 15 minutes. Student just has to go in and detail, references if they need to be contacted down the road if they don't pay back their loan or something like that. Both of these items have to be completed in addition to the loan being accepted before the loan will go on to the account. If we get to October, let's say, and the loans are still out there pending, hanging out, it's because they either haven't accepted it or haven't done one of these two items. So very important to do this. Again, recommend doing this. Have plenty of time. It's only April, so you have plenty of time. Sometime over the summer, if this could be done, that would be great. Also, for New York State residents, a few other things you have to think about in addition to the FAFSA is also your New York State applications for your state funding. We put an estimate in based upon the information we have on your FAFSA, but that does not mean that is guaranteed. You still have to go and apply through New York State. So it would be most likely your TAP, the Tuition Assistance Program, but there's some other programs as well. Make sure you have our school code on there on the TAP application. So again, it's a separate application you have to do. So you did the FAFSA, you also have to do the state application, and the website's right there, hask.ny.gov is where you will go directly to do that. Make sure you have our school code on there. What can happen sometimes is that you might have filled out the TAP application, but the TAP application only takes one school. So unlike the FAFSA where you can list 20 schools, New York State can only do one. So if you listed another school and now you're coming to Niagara, that other school is getting the funding. So you need to make sure that you have updated it to our correct school code. Again, that's listed on the screen, 0560. Level tuition plan. This is something that is really good to think about. This is for freshman students. So if you're a transfer, you would not be eligible. But freshman students coming in starting fall 25 can sign up for the level tuition plan. This will lock the tuition rate in for 8 consecutive semesters, so for the 4 years. Normal tuition rate now for the year for 25-26 is going to be $38,300. This locks it in at $39,300. So it's $1,000 more for this year, but then that $39,300 does not change for your sophomore, junior, or senior year. So it is a good thing for budgeting purposes. We've been doing it. This is like our 30th year, I believe, of doing it. And so students are projected to save at least $3,000 if tuition goes up about 3%. So if it goes up more, of course, you could save more. If it doesn't increases, it typically does for some reason, which has only happened once in the 30 years we've been doing this. We would adjust that for you to make sure you're not paying more than anybody else. But it is something to think about. So in order to sign up for this, you have to be deposited, so you can't do it until you deposit, and then you will be doing it. You can sign up, students can sign up in their admissions welcome portal, which looks something similar to this. On their left-hand side, when they log in, again, they have to be deposited. It will say level tuition plan contract. They can go in there and sign up. Just a note that if the student is below the age of 18, at the time of signing up, they will have to have a parent also sign it. So the student will do it electronically, and then they'll print off a copy for their parent to sign, and they have to return that to my office. But if you are 18 or over as of the day you're signing, you don't have to have a parent sign off. All right, that's it for my section. I'm going to turn over to Jacob, and then we will go look at questions.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So we bill by semester. So your students will typically have two bills, one for the fall and one for the spring. So the fall semester and the spring semester, it's typically due 1 week before the start of classes. So the fall bill will be due either in full August 18th, or by that date, we ask that all of those things that Katie went over to have your financial aid in place, you have those things completed, and then any out-of-pocket payment is made by that date. Or you can enroll in one of our interest-free payment plans for the semester. So that has a $50 fee to enroll, but everybody's approved for the payment plan. And that splits your balance into 4 equal payments. So for the fall semester, it would run from August through November. And then for the spring semester, it would run January through April. So it kind of helps you budget things, split the balance up. And other than that $50 fee, as long as you make the payment on time each month, there would be no additional finance charges or anything along those lines. So it can be a good option for people that are not able to pay everything right in full all at once. A little bit later in the presentation, Katie will talk about some additional loan options that can also be used to meet any other costs not covered by the initial financial aid and loans. All of our billing is electronic, so your student is not going to receive a bill in the mail. They are going to only receive an electronic billing statement, and that will be communication to their NU email account. The billing portal can be accessed online at this website. It is TouchNet, that's our billing servicer, or it can be accessed through self-service. Katie, are you able to go to the next slide? I don't have control. Hopefully she's there.
Did it not
Oh,
advance?
it did. You know what? Mine was delayed a little bit. Thank you, though.
Yep.
So once your student is logged into this billing portal, they can do a number of things. They can add you as an authorized user. We recommend that all students do that. So if they have a parent, guardian, spouse, grandparent, anybody that wants to see the bill and be able to make payments on their behalf, we would recommend adding as an authorized user. So once that happens, you will also be able to access all of the same information through your own unique link. So you'll have all of the same access as them. You'll be able to view the billing statements and account activity along with them. When we send out a billing notification, you will also get that same notification to your email address as well. Payments can be made here. We have a few different electronic payment methods. People can pay by electronic check. They can pay by credit card. This is where you would set up your payment plans. You can save payment methods for future reference. Authorized users can do this as well, so that way you don't have to enter all of your information in every single time. And your student can also add a bank account for their refund. So if they ever overpay on their account or their excess loan funds distributed to their account and we owe money back to them, we can direct deposit that into their bank account. So it goes a little bit quicker than them receiving a paper check. Only exception to that is if a parent has Parent Plus, a plus loan, and it was indicated on the application they want any excess funds returned to the borrower, then a paper check would be mailed to the parent borrower at the address on the Parent Plus loan application. And the first time your student logs into this system, they're going to be posed with a series of questions to set all of this stuff up initially to kind of make things flow a little bit smoother for them. Also, I just wanted to point out too, if they add an individual as an authorized user, that also gives us the ability to talk to you regarding billing. If for some reason they did not have that person on the FERPA, but they wanted them as an authorized payer, that will give us the ability to talk to that person. You can go to the next slide. So one thing I do want to point out is our first day book program. So we've partnered with the Barnes & Noble bookstore on our campus to offer textbook rentals to all of our students. So students are automatically enrolled in this program, which is really nice, and the cost is automatically added to their bill. So for a full-time student, which most of your students will be, the cost for the book rentals are $265 per semester. So you're going to see that as a line item on their bill. And then as long as your student's schedule is accurate, they'll be able to pick up their books from the bookstore a little bit before classes start. The bookstore will actually pull all the books for your student based on their schedule that they already have selected. So they are textbook rentals. They do have to be returned at the end of the semester. However, students do have the option to, if they have a particular book that they want to keep, they can arrange with the bookstore to purchase that book back at an additional fee, or they can purchase all of their books back if they end up wanting to keep them. So those are options for that program. And then also, sometimes, depending on the classes a student's taking, they may have books that are slightly cheaper than that $265 rate, or maybe they're in student teaching their last semester or something like that, and they don't have textbooks that they need to rent. They can opt out of the program prior to the end of our drop and add period, which is the second week of class. And then that charge will be removed from their account. And then there's also the option, if the books to purchase are cheaper than the $265, they can opt out of the program and purchase the books instead. So there's tons of different options, but this allows students to use financial aid if they have excess loan funds or anything to help cover that cost. So it's a really nice program, but you have the option to opt out and purchase books back. Next slide. So one thing I do want to point out for all full-time students, we do have a mandatory health insurance. It's to comply with a New York State law. So all students do have to have health insurance that covers them in the Niagara area. So for any of our domestic students, so any of our US-based students, if they have their own health insurance or they are on your health insurance, they can opt out of the university insurance. So when you receive your initial bill, so initial fall bills will come out mid-July. Your health insurance charge will also be on the bill mid-July. It'll be about $2,800. You're going to see that as a line item on your bill. Students will have until September to opt out of that health insurance. So the link as of today, that is the link that your student would go to. It is way too early to do it now, but after July 1st, that portal will open for the fall semester, and you will be able to start opting out of the mandatory health insurance. So it requires your student to enter some information from their insurance ID card and upload an image of the front and back of the ID card. And then it goes to our partner and they review it. And then once the opt-out is accepted, we would reverse the charge off of the account. I don't think there's any international students on this call, but just in case there are, the health insurance would be mandatory. So there is no opt-out option for international students, including athletes that are international. But any of our domestic students, you can opt out of the insurance, and it is separate from providing the university health services office with your health insurance information. So two separate spots, but we will definitely contact your student a lot about this. Next slide, please. And then another thing I want to quickly point out is we have tuition insurance. We've partnered with GradGuard. When your student first logs into the billing portal, this will actually pop up as a message. They have until the first day of classes to decide if they'd like to enroll in the tuition insurance. This works really similarly to trip insurance. So if your student has to withdraw for any covered injury or illness, they can file a claim with the tuition insurance company, and you can purchase up to $20,000 in coverage, and believe the cost is about $220. So it's fairly affordable, but this is totally optional. But it can be a good option because it does cover withdrawals in the event of illness and whatnot. And you would just file a claim and it works similar to that. And then I think our next slide would be the additional options for the remaining balance. If Katie wants to talk about that real quick.
Thanks, Jacob. So yes, the options for remaining balance. So after all that stuff that Jacob talked about, when you get your bill and you see that the remaining balance is, now you should already have a breakdown that we provided with, I cannot with these glasses, sorry, that we provided in their financial aid package, a cost breakdown. So you already have an idea of what the estimated balance is going to be for the year. There are two main options that a lot of our families go with. The first one is the Direct Parent Plus loan. This is a federal loan. It's going to be in the parent's name. So it's not something that could ever be transferred over to the student at any point. It's always going to be in the parent's name. They can apply at studentaid.gov. The parents would log in with the FSA ID that they created to complete the FAFSA form, and they would go in and apply. Find out within like 5 minutes or so if you've been approved or denied, and then we find out the next day typically. One of the different things with the Parent Plus loan is that if the parent is denied for the Parent Plus, the student would then automatically be approved for up to $4,000 unsubsidized loan in the student's name. So it's an additional amount that they, in addition to what they already have been offered originally in their package. This is only if the parent gets denied. If the parent gets approved, they could decide to take it out. Or if they can show that they are unable to afford, would be unable to afford the payments, we can try to do an override to then get the student the additional unsubsidized loan as well. Again, the amount of that is $4,000 for the year. So $2,000 a semester. That's for freshmen and sophomores. For juniors and seniors, that goes up to $5,000 per year. So that's one option. The other option is a private alternative loan or private student loan. This one would be in the student's name, but most likely they're going to need a cosigner. 99% of the time, coming out directly from high school, the student is going to need a cosigner. It does not have to be a parent. It could be another relative or a friend or something, although most times, of course, it is a parent or maybe a grandparent. And this one, we don't, really we do have a preferred lender list if you want to start looking at that, but we cannot suggest one over the other. If you have a credit union that you belong to that maybe gives a better interest rate, definitely feel free to go with that. You can kind of start reviewing our preferred lender list at elmselect.com. It's on the site right now. Again, that's just a good starting point. You don't have to go with one of the ones. If you have someone else or a credit union or something you belong to that has a better interest rate, please feel free to go with that. The main difference with this, besides that one's in the parent's name and one's in the student's name, Parent Plus loan, find out within a really quick amount of time. The private student loan, it can take weeks for the whole process to go through. So if you're going with a private alternative loan, please build in plenty of time. If the bill is due mid-August, start in, late July of getting that process started. Also for the Parent Plus loan, we don't have it open until June 1st. So you cannot apply for Niagara through the Parent Plus loan until after June 1st. Otherwise, it just kind of just sits there and doesn't do anything. So just have to wait until then. All right, here's our contact information for both student accounts and financial aid. I know we went over a lot of information and we're going to get to questions in a second. And again, feel free to type in any ones that you have, whether it's something we didn't address or some confusion on something we did talk about. Here's our phone numbers, our fax, our emails, on our websites. Feel free to reach out. Both of our teams are, more than happy to help answer any questions you might have, whether it's filling out the FAFSA or going over a financial aid package or billing, options and payment plans. We're here to help with those questions. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Again, this is being recorded, so we will send this out to you if you missed anything, but then we will get to some questions.
Okay, so I do see there's a payment question about 529 payments. So it says, when it comes to a student having a 529 to help cover tuition, should we pay each semester or can we pay for fall and spring at the same time? You will want to pay each semester because more than likely your 529 administrator will require proof that you owe tuition. So your tuition bill that your student can download has all of the information that they would typically need. So you would make one payment for the fall, one payment for the spring. Your 529 plan can typically mail a check to the university and you can arrange it to have it sent a few days before payment due date. The only thing we ask is that your student's ID number be included on that check. So just make sure your 529 plan administrator knows that. We do not accept payments before we put up charges for a semester. So for the spring of 2026, we would put up charges shortly after December 1st. So you would be able to start making payments for spring after December. So for right now, after July 1st, you would be able to pay for the fall. And Katie, did you want to talk about work study? Maybe I'm wondering
Sure.
if the question's toward eligibility.
Yeah, and we can kind of hit it from both perspectives, but for the work study, you do have to have be eligible for it financially based upon your FAFSA form. So it's not going to be in everybody's financial aid offer, but if it was in your offer, what you can do is that you'll actually be contacted probably within the next couple months after you make your deposit. I think our career services was planning on reaching out starting in May, mid-May. For the paperwork to be completed and then placement to happen as well. Placement will happen over the summer so that by the time the student arrives in the fall, they would have hopefully their placement of whatever office they're going into. And then they will be able to earn, it's a paycheck every 2 weeks. Then they can use that, they could save it and then, use it, sign up for a payment plan to make payments on their bill. They can use it for, other expenses. So that's how work study does work. Now we do have a limited number of positions, so unfortunately, even if you are financially eligible for it, not everybody can get it. If you are interested in it and it was not in your financial aid offer, you can always go on a wait list. You would contact Career Services to go on that wait list. I don't know if she started it yet, but it might not start until I would say probably next month once we get through the main deposit season. But if that didn't answer your question, you had more, just, plop it in the chat and we'll get back to that. So Elsie says you're trying to make her mobile financial account, says everything has to match the FAFSA. Yes, so you have to be using your Purple Pass credentials to log in. So please be sure that you activate your Purple Pass credentials. And that's what you will use to log into the Student Forums site. If you're still having trouble with that, feel free to send our office an email and we can look into it further. How much does it cost to lock in the tuition? So to lock it in for this upcoming year will be $39,300, which is $1,000 more than the normal tuition. So it's going to be $500 extra a semester just for this year, but then $39,300 will be the same amount you pay in the sophomore year. Well, should I say pay that you'll be charged in the sophomore year, junior year, and senior year.
And
So
then,
oh, go ahead, Jacob.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, once you lock it in and that's processed, then your bill will be adjusted and it'll reflect online for your student.
Yes. Yep. And I was just going to say that it typically you start really seeing savings in the junior year. So most years you pay more the first year, about the same the second year as everyone else or anyone who's not on that level tuition, and then you start saving in the junior and senior years. What if already did admissions welcome portal did not sign up for level tuition plan? It should still be there as an option, even if you didn't sign up for it for the first time. So if you go back in, hopefully it should still be there as an option. Because as far as I know, the welcome portal, you can kind of go back and forth with completing it. So it should always kind of be there as an option. If not, again, reach out. We'll work with IT on that.
Katie, yeah, just to hop in really quickly. Yeah, that's accurate. So if you log in, the option should still be there. And if not, so please, contact admissions or your counselor and let us know. We'll get you situated. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah.
What is FAFSA? So this session is really more so for just U.S. students or permanent residents. So if he's Canadian and not dual citizen, unfortunately, most of the stuff we talked about, he's not eligible for as far as like the endowed scholarships or the FAFSA or the the loans. Canadians would only have, typically it's OSAP that you can apply for through the Canadian government. Which tax years to use to determine? So the 25-26 FAFSA will be based off of 2023 tax information. Is there a FERPA form the student needs to sign to allow their parent guardians access to their accounts? So FERPA really just gives permission for offices to speak with parents or guardians. I know in Jacob's case with student accounts, like they can give the authorized user to be able to log in, right, Jacob, to see the accounts. But most offices, there is not like a separate parent login. The student would just have to be able to share, you know, the information with you.
That is correct. So like in general, FERPA, it works very similar to HIPAA. So it's just the student is listing people that are authorized to speak on that student's behalf for financial information, academic information, student affairs information, etc. Our authorized user functionality is an actual login for a parent to be able to view billing statements, pay bills, and make payment plans on the student's behalf. So that is separate than the FERPA, and that would be something that the student would initiate once they receive their first bill in July. The FERPA, I believe, is on the welcome portal, Stephanie, correct?
Yep.
So
Yep.
they can fill that out now, so that way all of that information is already set.
Yeah, in the welcome portal, just so you know, I have it pulled up on my laptop right now. If parents have additional questions about it, and if anyone does and is unsure about the portal, please, you know, either drop a name in the chat or let me know, and I can send you. There's a whole video and everything that we can send you to walk you through the welcome portal if it seems confusing. But the majority, what lists in here, what needs to be filled out in the forms is the FERPA, of course, any emergency text, emergency contact, and financial aid, and you can also upload your photo there as well. So for like IDs and stuff like that. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of everything that's included in the welcome portal. And if you need that from me, just let me know.
Thank you. Are there other loan options that we can apply for to be paid starting after graduation other than the offered in the package letter? So I don't know the timing of that. Maybe it was before I got to the loans. But just to review, there is the two main loan options in addition to what's already offered in the financial aid offer are the Parent Plus loan, which is federal loan in the parent's name, or the private student loan, which will be in the student's name, but they will need a cosigner. Both of those loans typically do offer you can start making payments after graduation. Typically interest, of course, is accruing while they're in school, but the payments typically can be made after, but we need to double check with each lender that you're applying to for that one. Is the financial aid offer that was mailed last box at the bottom that says estimated remaining balance, the total amount for the year, fall 25 and spring 26, otherwise the amount shown due each semester. So on the breakdown that was sent, the estimated remaining balance is for the entire year. So about half of that for fall and half of that for spring. It's not going to be exactly half, as there's like two fees typically that are charged for fall only, and that you would never see again. But it's very minute, like $275 difference. But for the most part, it'd be half and half. So basically, the health insurance has to be waived by when?
That would be September 15th, and that's an annual thing. So if your student, you waive the health insurance for the fall, you're good for the fall of 2025 and the spring of 2026. And then you would have to waive again during the fall of 2026. So just keep in mind, September 15th of every year, we always recommend students waive prior to classes starting. That way, if there are any issues, once they get to campus, then we can help them out with it. But that way we have time to troubleshoot if anything arises.
Where do I go to apply for work study? So I suggested two things. First off, you can reach out to my office, FAO, so F as in Frank, A as in Apple, O as in Orange, FAO at Niagara.edu. And we can, one, see if you're even eligible for work study, because again, you have to have that need-based component. And then if you are, then we can forward your email on to Career Services to go on the waiting list. If you're not eligible for work study, you can still reach out to Career Services because there are other jobs on campus that have nothing to do with being eligible for the work study positions. So I think starting point, email the financial aid office and we can take you from there. If the student's final GPA for high school goes up, can the merit-based scholarship be increased?
So if there has been a significant, more often than not, I will say that it has to be, in all the experience in the past, it has to be a very significant jump in the GPA for it to make a difference in merit levels. But certainly you're more than welcome to submit that to us, and we can see if it makes a difference, and we'll honor any kind of increase for the merit for sure. So once again, you can just drop your name to me. I'm gonna also drop my information in the chat. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, especially about admissions, you can write to me directly. But yes, you are welcome to submit that. If you do know, which I hope you do by now, who your admissions counselor is, you can also contact them directly too if you would like. So, but either way, you can go through them or contact me.
Where do we apply for college-sponsored payment plans?
So that would be on the billing system. So once the first bill is generated in July, that will be presented as an option. So there will be, when a student logs in, there will be a button to enroll in the payment plan. And once you do that, you would set up your enrollment fee payment, and then you can even schedule payments to come out automatically, or you can set it up to go in each month and pay before the due date. And you would choose each semester if you wanted to participate in the payment plan. So if you enroll in it for fall and you still want to be on the payment plan in the spring, it would be a separate enrollment. So it would be a semester by semester thing.
Thanks, Jacob. Elizabeth, I know you've been messaging me directly. If you could just send me, message me directly what your full name is, and then I can take a look to see at your individual situation and get back to you, tomorrow. Why do they need to qualify for work study through a FAFSA? So work study is a federally funded program. So you need to file the FAFSA and have financial need, because you have to have financial need based upon the requirements of the work study program in order to be eligible for it. So need to have the FAFSA filed, you need to have financial need based upon that calculation. And then you also have to have enough, we have to be able to have it offered to you. I will say at this time we've stopped awarding any new work study positions. We've already offered out what we think we're able to. So at this point, any new FAFSAs that come in, it won't be listed in your package. And you can always go on the waiting list if you do have that financial need component. But again, there are jobs on campus that have nothing to do with having federal work study. It could just be a normal job that students can apply for. So there are those as well. For the unsubsidized loans, do we apply for the 4 years altogether or separately? So the FAFSA was an annual process. So each year you do the FAFSA, we will offer you new federal loans each year. So there are annual limits. For freshmen, it's $5,500 between either sub and unsub, subsidized or unsubsidized. For sophomores, it's $6,500, and then juniors and seniors, it's $7,500 each year. But you do have to do the FAFSA every single year in order for us to determine any federal state aid eligibility. So if you're talking about, now on the other hand, if you were talking about for Parent Plus loans and trying to get that denial, that is something you have to do every single year as well. The parent would have to be denied every single year in order to get the additional unsubsidized loan through that denial. That didn't answer, just, put in another question. My son also didn't have work study in his FAFSA. Who does he contact? Again, I would say start with my office, the financial aid office, FAO@niagara.edu. It could be that he doesn't have the need component. So we'll determine that first, and then we could forward it on to career services to go on a waiting list. I was told the total lock-in cost was about $600. Then I was told it cost about $1,000 to lock in. Well, it does depend upon the year. So it was a different lock-in price for last year. And just with the increase in cost and whatnot, it was decided to go to the $1,000 for the 25-26 year. So that could just be a timing of when the cost, that was last year's cost for the level tuition for 24-25, not for 25-26.
So the next question is, why is our tuition and fees $42,675 if tuition is $38,300? So tuition is one cost. So the 38,300 is the tuition piece, and then there are other fees associated with registration. So there are a student services fee. There would be books, things that are like one-time fees, like an orientation fee and whatnot. And then there could be some program specific fees. So for instance, if your student was in a business, nursing, or computer sciences program, there are additional fees associated with those majors. So that would be the difference between the 38,300 and the 42,675 would be the fees.
Yeah, and if you're taking that 42,675 directly from like that cost breakdown, that 42,675 is going to be the tuition of 38,300, the undergraduate student fee, the registration fee, the orientation fee, and then any other program fees. The books would be a separate line. Can a work study be set up to go directly to the university? Unfortunately, no. We no longer offer that. So you would just get it as a paycheck, and then you can decide, once you cash that, to then make a payment onto your account. Also, our specific hours guaranteed if on your award letter. So if you do have it offered to you, you are, guaranteed to have a spot offered to you once you do the interview process. I would say it's very rare that a student isn't able to find a schedule that works for them. We do have a lot of different, offices on campus that you could go into. So it's very rare that you wouldn't be able to find one. If you've been offered it, you're going to have that potential, you're going to have the interview to be placed somewhere. Do you pay taxes on it? Yes, tax, it's just like a normal other job. Taxes are taken out based upon whatever, if you claim, whatever, or whatever you claim, filing status you claim. Just to clarify, for the New York State TAP, the offer set an amount, but they said to go on the site from your slides to lock it in. So for the New York State TAP, we, in financial aid, based upon your FAFSA form, do an estimate based upon the information there. But that is not the same thing as having you actually apply through New York State and go through their system. Because so the federal site, the FAFSA goes off of your adjusted gross income federally. New York State goes off of your net taxable New York State income. So those can be different amounts. So we don't have the exact figures. So we have an estimate if it's in there, but you still need to apply directly at haska.ny.gov. You might have already done that. A lot of people have, but if you haven't, you do have to go there to make sure to complete the application. If you're not sure if you did it or not, reach out to us. We can look on your behalf.
So the next question, can you use as much of the 529 account as you want to pay for each semester's bill, or is it required to use everything in the account before taking out a loan? It is not required to use everything in the account before taking out a loan. You can definitely take out a loan and utilize 529 funds to cover any other out-of-pocket amount. I would definitely check with your 529 plan administrator to see what stipulations are on the account and on the use of funds. But students can typically request as much as they want. So for instance, if you owed $5,000 out of pocket after your loans were applied and you wanted to use $1,000 from your 529 plan account, you could do that. You're not required to necessarily pay a certain amount, but I would from 529, but I would check with the administrator to see what restrictions you may have on your account based on how it's set up. There is another question about how to start applying for the level tuition plan. Catherine said she opened it on the admissions page, but doesn't provide a link where they can apply. I do believe it's on the welcome portal.
Yes, you have to be deposited in order to have the link shown to you in the welcome portal. So that's something. Are you deposited? Are you in the admissions welcome portal? And then if you are, it should be on the left-hand side, say level tuition plan contract.
Yes.
Then the next question is, are the health forms due by Thursday, July 31st, or is that when the forms open for families to take to MDs?
They're due on July 31st, correct? Yes.
Then, Katie, is there a reason why the federal student loan amounts haven't been adjusted or raised?
Are we talking about the annual limits, like the 55, 65, and 7,500? Because most of those things are through an act of Congress, and it is very hard to get things changed concerning higher education and loans these days. So It's been like that for at least a decade, maybe I mean, those amounts, those levels have been like that for a very long time. I do not, foresee them increasing at any point anytime soon.
So next question is, if we file one FAFSA, why is it different offers for multiple colleges, like subsidized, unsubsidized loans, work study, etc.?
Great question. So the thing with the FAFSA is that while your student aid index, the SAI, will remain the same regardless of what college you go to, each college has a different cost of attendance. So cost of attendance is comprised of, tuition and fees, book supplies, room and board, room and board, transportation, and personal cost. So those are going to differ at each college. They're going to differ within the college. If you are commuting versus living on campus, you have different cost of attendances. So because of all those different variables, students' package from one college to the next is going to look very different. I always like to, when I'm giving my presentations, I always like to say, a community college, locally here that's like, NTRIP or SUNY in Niagara versus Niagara University, a private versus Harvard, very different cost of attendances. You're gonna have very different financial aid offers from each one. As far as work study eligibility goes, same thing. Each school has a different amount that's allotted to them. Each school does work study differently. There's just so many different components at each school. Hopefully that helps with that. If our financial situation has changed since the FAFSA tax year, how can we request a reevaluation for more aid this year? So you can just reach out to my office. You would explain, what the situation is, and from what you tell us, we can decide whether or not it's something we can do professional judgment on, to try to, increase the amount of financial aid that you have been awarded, or if it's just like an appeal. So reach out. First step is to reach out to my office, FAO@niagara.edu. What is the hourly rate for the work study? So it's minimum wage, which I believe right now is $15.50 at the moment.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, just so I understand, other than the $5,500 total federal loan amount offered, we can still apply for a loan covering the rest of the amount through an unsubsidized loan. No, not exactly. So besides the $5,500 loan for the student, whether it's sub or unsub combination, the other options federally would just be a Parent Plus loan in the parent's name, which you could take up to cover the balance or up to the cost of attendance. If the parent gets denied, though, for that loan, the student would automatically receive an additional unsubsidized loan of up to $4,000. So the unsubsidized loan does not, the additional one is only going to cover $4,000. It's not going to typically cover the rest of the balance. If the parent gets approved for the Parent Plus loan, though, yes, that usually covers the remaining balance or up to their cost of attendance. I hope that answers your question. How do I check if I'm deposited? I'm pretty sure I did, but I want to make sure.
Yep.
Stephanie.
Yes, yep. I took a look, and Catherine, yes, you are deposited. So congratulations.
But I would say if you're deposited and are in the welcome portal and are not seeing the level of tuition plan contract option, let us know.
Yes.
We'll talk to IT.
Absolutely, yes. Please let us know. Thank you.
And then there was another question. What is a 529? It does look like someone else answered it. And I just want to confirm, yes, it is a college savings plan parents can do for their children.
I will say one thing. It doesn't have to be a parent. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends. You can get you can do a 529 plan for anybody.
This is true. Then if the deposit was waived, when can you enroll for LTP? If the deposit was waived, you would be considered deposited. So you should be able to enroll in LTP on the welcome portal.
Yes, correct.
And then if the student health insurance is waived because the parent is covered, or because the student is covered by the parent's policy, does this mean they cannot use on-campus health services? That's a good question. No, all of our students can utilize campus health services. It's available to all registered students. If the health insurance is waived, you would also have given health services copies of your insurance cards, so they would then bill your insurance company. Sometimes there's co-pays and whatnot. So if a student does utilize health services, for instance, if they receive an antibiotic or something from our health services office, then that amount would be added to the student tuition bill after they receive the service. And then there may be other costs associated with it based on your insurance plan, but all students can utilize health services.
It's the end of the questions, at least in the chat. So great, tons of information, and what wonderful, I mean, the thorough answers too. So thank you both. Any other specific questions? We're coming up to about 2 minutes before we end. And just, I know I put it in the chat, but just in case it was missed, know that in case you miss anything, you need to rewatch, this will all be sent out to you. It'll be recorded and emailed too, so don't worry. But anything else anyone can think of? Oh, Catherine's saying I still can't see a level. Okay. Thank you. We will definitely make sure that that gets taken care of. So they appreciate it. Thank you for letting us know that.
We'll look into that. And then I do see another quick question about health services. No, you cannot use it for regular prescriptions. They have minimal stuff on hand. It's really for like when a student's, it's like an emergency or sick situation. So they would need a nearby pharmacy.
Can you provide an example on the tuition payment plan?
I mean, so the tuition payment plan, it's a $50 enrollment fee that you would pay, and then it would split the balance into 4 equal payments. So for the fall, you would have a payment due August 10th, September 10th, October 10th, and November 10th. So it would take the remaining out-of-pocket balance after all financial aid and loans, and then it would divide it by 4. So you would have 4 equal payments spread out among those 4 months.
Any other questions? We'll give it another minute or so for anything else to pop in. And if not, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And again, feel free. I know there's probably a lot more questions as you go down the road. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help.